In this episode of My Cat's Tale, One-Eyed Willow and Two-Eyed Buffy.
Willow the cat is like the sweetest cat I feel like I've ever met in my life. Buffy is really adventurous. She'll climb up stuff. She has no fear at all. They were like smushed together in the smallest little cat tree thing, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they love each other now.
Joining me now on My Cat's Tale, Kristan. Hello, Kristan.
Hello.
A little bit of comics in the background. I've got somebody here who's got a bigger YouTube channel than we've got podcast.
I'm not sure by much, honestly. Maybe not.
This is your chance to get a mention in about the YouTube channel before we talk about Willow and Buffy.
I would love that. My YouTube channel is The Comic Slayer, which of course derives from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I talk about comics with my husband on the internet. Sometimes the cats make an appearance, so you may want to check it out. So
there we are. The Comic Slayer, cat's called Willow and Buffy. You've already mentioned there's a link there, but let's start there. That's quite a love of the 90s TV high fantasy series.
Absolutely. It's still to this day my all-time favorite show. And when we were thinking about getting cats, we were like, okay, what are good cat names? We always joke that like we like the human names for cats. Like we always love like, oh, there's Ted, that's funny to us. So I was like, well, Buffy and Willow. And when we saw Buffy and Willow, who have come to be Buffy and Willow, that was of course not their names when we got them. But, Willow's ginger, Willow on the show, redhead, and our Buffy is white, and she's blonde, I guess, and that is Buffy on the show. And, they've become best friends just like on the show. I feel like they kind of have the same personality traits as the characters, oddly enough. Like, for somewhat. Of course, they're cats. But, we've noticed little things, and we're like, oh, you're kind of acting like Buffy. Buffy,
Does that mean, like, when my cats would just normally bring back a mouse, Buffy just brings back a pile of dust?
That's really funny, actually. She's pretty bad at slaying, I gotta say. So, like, if, like, a moth gets in the house, she'll tap it a little bit, and she'll really try really hard, but, like, she's not good at slaying. So maybe that's not quite... she's not quite on Buffy's level, And
obviously, both Willow and Buffy in the TV series went through a huge amount of character development. So, which season is your Buffy and Willow most like?
Love this. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, I want to say maybe like season 2, Buffy and Willow. And I guess I'm thinking of, they're younger, and my cats, they're both about 6 now. Which I guess in cat years is not maybe younger, but they have youthful personalities. In season 2, they were still in high school, figuring themselves out. I feel like my cats are still, they figured themselves out maybe. But, yeah, I don't know. My cat Buffy is really adventurous, like Buffy. She's the one who will I keep saying Buffy, and I'm like, wait, which is what? Yeah. She's the climber, right? She'll climb up stuff. She's jumped to beyond areas we never knew she could get to the point of scaring us. She has no fear at all. And she also holds zero grudge. Like, we call her No Grudge Buff, because if we do something she doesn't like, she'll walk away and she'll come right back. And that's, and I feel like back then, Buffy in the show, she kind of had that attitude more than maybe she developed a different attitude later. I don't know. I feel like that makes sense to me. But, and Willow is always so sweet. Willow and Buffy, in the show, Buffy. Our Willow the cat, it's becoming confusing in my mind. But Willow the cat is like the sweetest cat I feel like I've ever met in my life. She's just so sweet, and the character is the sweet character. She's the sweet best friend. She's always there for Buffy, so I think the names make sense.
We could stretch the analogy for one more question, or we could just go straight to the pilot episode origin story. What do you want to do?
Oh, I love both. I don't know.
Okay, let's just stretch it. Is there any other cat in the neighborhood that's a bit like Angel? Because this is season 2 Buffy.
Oh my gosh. Not that we know of. We found a few roaming cats around.
Okay, yeah, that's
and
Spike.
we don't.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't have a ton around here, but there actually was like a bigger ginger cat. He showed up at our door and he kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And around here, it's hard to know if, anyone's letting their cat roam around or they were dumped or lost or, it's hard to figure that out around here. So we kept feeding him. He kept coming back. And it was finally like, okay, let's see if he has a microchip. Let's see if he has a home. So we went and did that. He had a microchip. We tried to get a hold of the people. I mean, it was not happening. It was not happening at all. I don't know if they dumped him or what. So finally, we got a hold of a rescue and we took him there. And my point of telling you that story is we named him Giles because he was just like a sweet older guy, right? And I feel like he would have been a good trainer and watcher for sure.
Oh, I'm so glad you didn't follow it with the chip, because that would be season 5, and we don't talk about season 5.
Oh,
No. Right, okay.
No, not the chip.
Right, then that's it. We've burnt out of all that stuff. Origin story, pilot episode for your Willow and Buffy now. Where did they come from? How did you find them?
Well, my husband and I, before we got married, we got this house together. And I was working like overnight shifts and weird shifts. I worked in TV for a long time and it's 24/7. So like I had to work all kinds of crazy shifts. And, when I wasn't here, he would be like sleeping alone and he would be like, the house needs something. We need something in here, So we talked about getting cats and we looked online at like shelters around here. And I fell in love with Willow immediately, like her picture. I mean, just that one big eye. She already had her eye out when I met her. She just had the biggest eye. And we were looking at this other cat. We actually didn't really notice Buffy online at that time. So we went to meet them. It was a local humane society. And we were taken to the cat room there. And it's this big open room with cats just kind of running amok, right? Like, to the point of we were like, this is weird. Like, it wasn't kind of nice feeling. It was just kind of odd. There was litter everywhere. We immediately got a weird feeling about this place. I can't describe it. But there was a big trash can in the middle that this cat was eating out of. This was a shelter, like a humane society. It was weird. And this cat was eating, like, there was McDonald's bags on the top. And we were just like, this is not okay. There was one worker in there, wasn't paying attention. And this cat immediately jumps on my husband's shoulder. And she just starts riding around, rubbing on him, wouldn't leave him. And we're like, okay, I think this cat chose us. This has to be our cat. We can't leave without this cat, And that ended up being Buffy. And she's still a shoulder cat to this day. She loves riding on a shoulder. Yeah, she will, like, climb up you and just sit there forever if you let her. It's so cute. And then we were like, where's Willow? Because we knew, her photo online, which her old name was Barbie. And we were like, no way are we keeping that. So we're like, where's Willow? We don't see her anywhere. So we're taken to another room. And she's laying on the ground in this bed. I'll never forget this. And she's fast asleep. And the woman there was like, oh, we need to wake her up. And takes a pen, tosses it at her. And it hits her, wakes her. I know. And it's a terrible origin story, honestly. Like, I'm just like, what is this place? So we immediately felt like, okay, we have to save these girls from this place that supposedly rescued them, right? It was like a double rescue, I guess. We were just like, we got to get her out of here. So my husband picks her up, and she immediately starts, like, rubbing her face all over his face. Rubbing her nose on him, purring loudly, kneading his chest. I mean, just immediately. And the worker there, she was just like, I've never seen her do this. Like, she does not do this. This is very, this is something.
So this is the worker who woke her up saying, I've never seen her be affectionate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe wonder why, right? And we noticed she was coughing a little. Like, we heard some maybe rattling, and we were like, is she sick? Like, what's going on? And they were like, oh, she just has a cold. Like, we'll send you home with some pills. And we're like, okay. And back then, we didn't know better. We just assumed that they were telling us the truth, because why wouldn't you, right?
How old are they now?
There are 6.
So this is 5-6 years ago then, yeah?
Yeah. And they were, when we got them, they were about 1, they estimated. So we took them home and we got them a vet appointment, like, pretty fast. And when we took them there, the vet looked in Willow's mouth which was full of teeth. And he was like, well, her teeth look like they're rotting in her mouth. Like, it's not good. And we're like, what does that mean? Like, how do we... And what's this rattling? Is she just sick? And they're just like, no, we're pretty sure, like, she has stomatitis, which, you know, I've done so much research on this now, and unfortunately there's not tons of research out there. It doesn't affect, like, a wide variety of cats. But I think the best way I can explain it, and people feel free to Google if you need some more medical terms, because I don't have them, but it causes, like, inflammation of the mouth, and when there's teeth, the body's immune system kind of overreacts to it, and, like, the plaque on the teeth and everything causes all this inflammation and pain and, like, bloody gums, and it's really gnarly. It's not a good thing. So the best quote-unquote cure they have for it is to take the teeth out and see how that works. Because if there's not teeth for the plaque to react, then, you know, a lot of cats, I think it's about 80% of cats, it kind of quote-unquote cures stomatitis. So eventually she got all of her teeth out, and that really did help for a while. But unfortunately, she also has chronic calicivirus, which can go hand in hand with stomatitis, I guess. And that causes the upper respiratory thing that she had at that time to just kind of always be there. So that girl, she's just real snotty. she's my little snotty girl. She's always snotty. I wipe her nose all the time. She hates it so much. So yeah, we go to the vet. We get this huge vet bill and this crazy diagnosis. And I didn't even mention Buffy had the worst ear mites my vet had ever seen in her life. So this humane society clearly just did not treat them right, and also didn't give us any of this information, right? And we ended up going back and being like, hey, we just want you to know that this is what was happening. This is what we were told. It's not okay you didn't tell us this. You know, and I spoke with the owner, and I'll never forget it, because she was like, well, you can just bring her back. And I teared up at that. And I told her, I said, no, these are our cats now, and we would never bring them back here. You know, we just want you to be aware that, like, it's not a good situation. And also the ear mites, you may want to check the other cats. Like, that's super contagious. So, yeah, it's a lot.
So how fast did they settle at home? Because obviously it sounds like Buffy settled on her shoulder and Willow's settled on your nose, with her nose is all snotty and everything. But what was it like when you got home with them?
Oh my gosh. It was a weird dynamic for a while. You know, Buffy is such an explorer. You know, she just immediately was like, okay, I gotta know where everything is. I want to rub myself on everything. She still does that. She marks everything with her face. So she just immediately started exploring, looked around at everything, was immediately kind of at home, you know, and Willow was way more fearful. I didn't mention that before she was at that shelter, she actually came from a horrible cat hoarding house. That's where she was rescued. That's where she got her eye injury and had to get the eye removed. So she's been through a lot in her life, her little life up to that point, you know, so I would question if, like, a lot of terrible things didn't happen to her, living outside, living in the hoarding, you know, with all the cats. Of course, she had a terrible eye injury. But she's still the sweetest thing ever. So when we got her home, she kind of looked around, but she mostly hid. You know, that first day, she was hiding a lot, hiding under, like, our desks and just little areas. And we let her be, you know, and that night, like, Buffy was on the couch with us and rubbing all over us and having a nice time. And, you know, I was sad that Willow wasn't there, you know, but we were like, okay, give her space. And that night we went upstairs where our bed is, and we heard yelling, like a little meowing, yelling kind of voice, you know? And we're like, oh, that's Willow. And she hadn't, to that point, we hadn't heard her meow. Buffy's very talkative. Willow kind of rarely talks, you know? So we heard this little meow, and we went over to the stairs to look down, and she was right there. And it made us feel like she was like, hey, where's everyone? What's going on? Like, okay, I want to be involved now, you know? And she just bolted up the stairs. And what's great is, like, to this day, she still does that. So if she, like, falls asleep on the couch or, like, goes to sleep in the living room and we go upstairs and she wakes up and she's like, where is everyone? She'll start screaming her head off. And so we're like, hey, we're up here. And then she'll bolt upstairs. Like, it's so cute.
So, still doing that to this day?
To this day, yeah. She's mellowed out. I feel like she's way more mellow than Buffy is. And that's kind of, she'll have good and bad days with her situation, you know? With the Khaleesi virus, it also causes, like, ulcers in her mouth and in her nose and on her tongue. So some days are better than other days with that. We get her laser therapy at the vet to help some of that inflammation. She's on medication every day. So some days, like, when she feels really good, we can tell. She'll trot around and follow us around, and, you know, she'll do certain things that, like, back when she was younger, we didn't know her as a kitten, but I would call it kitten-like behavior, like, gets super playful, and then we're like, okay, Willow's having a good day. Like, we love that. So she's definitely not as, like, much of an explorer as Buffy, but when she's in a good mood, she's real active, and she will actually chase after Buffy. Earlier, she was chasing after Buffy, so I'm like, yay, it's a good Willow day. Love that.
And what about Buffy now? Still exploring?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she doesn't stop. She's what I think Jackson Galaxy calls a mojito cat. So, like, the moment anyone walks in the door, she's like, hey, how's it going? I'm Buffy. Would you like a drink? Like, what's up? Like, she has that attitude. We were just joking about it earlier. We had our floor was, like, real messed up, like, a few years ago. We had to get it, like, removed and, like, replaced and everything. So we had this random older guy come in. He was measuring the floors. And Buffy followed him around the entire time, just so interested in what he was doing, wanted to be his best friend, was rubbing on his leg, was trying to, like, play with him. And he was just like, I've never met a cat like this. Like, this is a lot. And we're like, yeah, she just wants to hang out with everybody. She will also play fetch. She's a dog cat.
Did you two have cats before?
We didn't. I grew up with dogs. Like, my dad was notoriously an anti-cat person. Like, he hated cats. Because I still joke about it to this day. He will come over, lay on the floor, Buffy will crawl all over him, and he will pet her, like, for an hour. And I'll be like, oh, you hate cats, don't you? You just really hate cats. So, yeah, we had no experience with cats. And now it's just like, oh, we would never have anything else at this point. You know, dogs are great. But there's nothing like a cat.
So why go for a cat then? Why not a dog?
Absolutely. We even bought this house with a yard thinking we would have, like, 2 dogs was our thinking. But, you know, at that time, my husband was commuting for his job. He was driving about an hour to work and an hour back. And I was driving about 40 minutes away and back for my job. And I was working all these weird shifts at the time, you know. So we were like, we are just gone so much that we felt it was really unfair to get a dog that would need walks all the time and, you know, more human attention than maybe a cat would, right? That was our thinking, at least. And, you know, our cats love us and they want our attention, but we trust them to, like, chill out on their own while we're gone, and they don't care because they'll be asleep. It's fine. So that was kind of our thinking there.
What surprised you about having cats?
I think, you know, at that point when we got the cats, we had done so much research. Like, we had watched all the Jackson Galaxy videos. You know, we'd done as much as we possibly could to make sure it was the right, you know, choice for us and the cat. And I knew they could be affectionate, but I hadn't actually ever met cats that are affectionate in the way that my cats are. You know, I didn't have a ton of experience with them anyway. But I think that's what surprises me the most, maybe still to this day, you know, like when I go to sleep, especially like it's getting colder around here now, I will wake up and they will both be laying on me in some fashion, you know, and it's just, or there's been times where we've been sick and they will immediately get on us and purr and calm us down, you know, just things that I didn't notice having dogs. And again, dogs are great. No offense to dogs, but something I really didn't expect about how wonderful cats are is I feel like they know what's happening maybe before we even do, you know?
Do you think they saw it as the other way around of well, what happens is these big people come into this room and then we decide if we want them?
Yeah, and that's an honor, right? It's like, oh, you chose my lap today. Love that. Instead of my husband's baby, and I'm glad we have two because we'd probably be fighting over that, right? But we have two, one for each lap. And that usually happens. One of them will choose us and the other one will go to the other lap. And we love that.
And that seems to go right back to the point of when you adopted them. This big room, your husband walks in and that's the shoulder for me. I'll take this one, everybody.
Absolutely. And that felt like, again, she wasn't even really, quote unquote, on our radar at that point. But we were like, well, we can't leave without this cat. Like, this cat wants to join us. She has chosen you. And, she knows that you're going to take care of her. And that's what happened.
And it was always going to be two cats? Or did that just happen because of the shelter encounters?
Yeah, it was always going to be two, because we were like, well, if we're going to be gone for those period of times while we're working, we wanted to make sure they had some sort of friend and companion. We were actually looking for two, like a bonded pair. We know how hard that is typically to, adopt out because you have to be willing to take two. But we were also like, oh, they already love each other. That'll be great. And then we met Buffy, and we asked about, when we were there, if Willow had any other cat that, like, she was bonded with, and they just kind of told her she got along with everybody, so we were like, okay, we'll try this, and I want to say it was a good 6 months where they did not get along, and that was a little bit hard, and it was hard because they came from the same place, but they were not in the same rooms, So we tried to do what we could to, like, keep them as separate, but it was sort of impossible at that point with our house and the arrangement. We were just like, okay, we'll do what we can here. But like, Willow's sweet. She just wanted to play with Buffy. She just wanted to cuddle Buffy. But Buffy was very like territorial of us immediately. She was just like, oh no, these are my humans and you need to get away from me. Like, it was very much that attitude. But eventually now they cuddle and they love each other. So it's a happy ending.
When did you know that they had fallen for each other?
I think it was one day we got home from work and we were like, where are they? And we like went upstairs, there's a cat tree up there, and they were like smushed together in the smallest little cat tree thing, just cuddled up on each other. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they love each other now. Like, they wouldn't be able to get this close if they didn't, so finally, right? We were just like, okay, good. We don't have to worry about this anymore. I love it,
How did the house feel after that?
Yeah, it just felt like everything really came together. And, if I, for lack of a better word that doesn't sound cheesy, it was warm and everybody was getting along. And it just felt like the family is finally getting along and together and everything is like as perfect as it's going to be. And, from then on, like, we've had a lot of Willow trouble throughout the years with, like, everything getting her teeth out and, good days and bad days and good days and bad days and a ton of vet visits. But but it got better and better and better. And, again, Willow's good days, everything's good, and we're all happy. And it's great.
And on those bad days, she feels safe.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can tell that. Even, I made a comment, I wipe her nose all the time. We have, like, soft tissues everywhere around the house, I can't even tell you. We cover every pretty much piece of furniture we have with baby blankets, so we can just take them and wash them and bring them back, because she will snot everywhere. And she hates getting her little nose wiped. She has, like, the smallest little nose, too. She's a little cat. So, everything gets stuck in there like a baby. A baby can't, pick their own boogers. So we have to wipe her nose. And she absolutely hates it. She wiggles her head around. She wants to leave. But the moment we get done and she can, like, sneeze it out and then breathe better, she immediately starts purring and eating us. So, like, she knows that we helped her. She just hates it in the moment.
It sounds like for you just have a really good life, everything in balance, everybody helping each other.
Absolutely. And I hope that they feel that, and I think they do. Buffy didn't come from a great situation either. I think they found her on the streets. She was pregnant. Her kitten didn't make it. Like, they both have sad stories that thankfully, we've seen, like, cats out in the cold and, like, really bad situations, and we're just like, oh my gosh, I'm just so happy they're not living on the street anymore. And I think they have a great life. Yeah.
Well, it is so lovely to hear about that great life. Thanks very much for telling us. There are, as always, copious pictures online, aren't there?
Oh, too many. There are tons. You can follow them at One-Eyed Willow and Two-Eyed Buffy on Twitter if you want.
And we'll pop links back to the Twitter accounts on our website, which is mycatstailpod.com. And I'll put in a link to the YouTube as well, but you can give us the channel once more.
Thank you so much. It is The Comic Slayer on YouTube.
Kristan, thanks very much for coming on and telling us their tale on My Cat's Tale.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to My Cat's Tale, a Spence Media production. Listen to more tales of our perfect pets at mycatstailpod.com and support us on Patreon.